The Labor Party has suffered another polling blow. An internal UMR poll has put support for the party at 23%, 1 percentage point lower than a shock One News Colmar Brunton poll released yesterday. TV3 has a poll out tonight. The figure's slightly better for Labor, but still in that area of mid-20s. Both polls are lower than the 25% vote Labor recorded at the last election, its worst result in 92 years. I spoke to Labor leader Andrew Little just before we came to air and started by asking him why.
Well, I think there's been a succession of events that haven't helped. We had our kind of interns issue that didn't reflect well on us, I think, from some people, and we took a hit then. That was followed by the weekend where both Greens and New Zealand First had their conferences. They were chipping at each other, they were chipping at us. Although we had a series of announcements in the weeks that followed that, we found it difficult to get our announcements out there. Things like our families package, that was a big support, more support for families, like our fiscal plan. We made it clear that we are not the party of tax cuts. We prefer investing in things like more housing, more hospitals and health services, schools, the things that actually give people a chance, give them security, things that have been run down under this government, whose ideology is small government. So we've made those things pretty clear, but you're up against, stories about an MP who historically, on a benefit, had broken the rules, and that crowded out what we had to say.
So are you saying that were it not for Materia Ture, you would have got what you clearly regard as good news stories to more people?
I'm not. Look, the Green Party and Materia have done what they've done. She's fessed up to something in her previous life. She's drawing attention to an issue, which is about the dignity with which people on a benefit can live. That was a big story. It's been given pretty much wall-to-wall coverage. And I guess announcements about us favouring investing in things like hospitals and schools and jobs for young people was given less treatment than, the issues surrounding Materia Ture.
When did you find out about the Colmar Brunton poll? Did you find out about that on Thursday?
Colmar Brunton poll, I was briefed on Friday about that.
Okay, and who did you talk to? What members of caucus did you discuss the numbers with?
I spoke to a number of members of caucus. We divvied it up, a small group of us. It's not important who spoke to whom. What is important is that we briefed the caucus so everybody was aware, and we knew that with numbers like that, what was a very tough job was going to get tougher, and that this would be a tough week. We've been proven correct on that, at least.
It's very difficult to find a commentator now who isn't saying, Andrew Little, what the hell were you thinking, telling us this, that you had offered essentially to stand down, that this was strategically a disastrous admission?
I have made no offer to stand down. I am a team player. I work with the team. I think I'm a pretty honest bloke, actually, and when you get the lowest poll rate that you've had in a long, long time, you have to be honest with both yourself and your team. And I said a valid option is to look at, what we do with my position. I am in that position. I am absolutely and utterly determined to fight, because the sort of things that we've been talking about, which is about schools and hospitals and jobs for young people and better mental health services, we've been talking about for months and months. Those are vital to New Zealand and its long-term future and its people. And I am very clear, and Labor is very clear. We do not want to sit aside anymore and watch more and more New Zealanders missing out and being left behind, and in the face of a government whose priority is tax cuts that give $400 million to the wealthiest people in New Zealand.
Okay.
There is a stark difference between us.
There is a stark difference, and I'm going to repeat that list back to you. Jobs for young people, schools, hospitals, mental health services. If your point of difference is your support for those things, and your support for those things is worthwhile and admirable, why are you sitting at 23 or 24%? In other words, why isn't your message getting through and appealing to more people?
Yeah, that's the big question. And I say, when you look at the media coverage in the last couple of weeks and see what has been given priority, it is those things. It was a claim by New Zealand First that we ought to abolish the Māori seats. Now, I would have done literally dozens of meetings. The last one I did was 250 people turned out for a meeting in Levin on a wet, cold Friday night last Friday. No one has ever said to me that the one thing we must do right now if we want to get more people with a roof over their heads or better mental health services or better schools is we should abolish the Māori seat. For that matter, nobody has said that, we need to take a close look at the benefit system and deal with those people who are doing it tough there.
There's a slight paradox here. On the one hand, you are being brutally honest, and people are saying, actually, it's almost self-destructively honest, that you are putting yourself up and saying, hey, maybe I'm not working out. But on the other hand, you keep referring back to this kind of default position. Were it not for Winston Peters and the Māori seats, were it not for Materia Ture, we would be getting our message through. So there is still an element of not mea culpa. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, I disagree with you because I think up until about 6 or 8 weeks ago, we were hovering around that 28, 29, 30 mark, and in fact we've been up higher than that in earlier polls earlier this year. So we were hovering around that period there. It is in the last 6 to 8 weeks or last 6 weeks really, that we've seen that fall off in the polls. That's the reality, and I don't think anybody's disputing that. And so you've got to look over that period of time and see what's happening. I'm not abdicating responsibility for the things. I stepped up and took responsibility for what happened with the interns issue. Said we'd get that fixed and sorted out, and we did. Can't control what 2 other parties do at the weekend of their political conferences, and they did all that. But that generated a lot of heat and occasionally a bit of light as well. So that stuff is real. It happened. We kind of, when we saw what was happening, predicted we'd take a hit, and we did. And we haven't yet picked ourselves up from that.
What next? Will you lead Labour into the election?
I'm absolutely and utterly determined to do just that, because I am totally committed to being, putting up our plans that are going to make a difference for people to get their house, to get the hospital sorted, to get the school sorted. In the end, this comes down to a choice about, are we serious about closing that inequality gap? Are we going to stick, or are we going to stick with a government that is ideologically committed to small government, to trickle down to those things that are just shutting more and more people out? I'm totally determined to have that fight, because I've been fighting that for 20 years and I ain't given up now.
Andrew Little.